Hi, welcome back to the channel, The College Process. Once again, I'm Ed from Principia Prep, and today we're going to be going over what is the Student Aid Index. But before we begin, if you are new to the channel and are looking for additional college content, please hit the subscription button down below. It will notify you when new videos do come out. As well as if you do enjoy today's video, please leave us a like or a comment. It does help the channel. As well as we are still running the James Russo Memorial Scholarship, our scholarship program here at Principia Prep, where we give out thousands and thousands of dollars every year to graduating seniors going off to college. If you want more information about this program, please, in the description down below is a link to the James Russo Memorial video explaining how our scholarship program works here at Principia. As well as also in the description down below is also our organization's Venmo, as well as our Buy Us Coffee, if you want to help support the channel, allowing us to keep making these college videos for you guys out there. And all that being said, let's jump right into today's video. What is the Student Aid Index? Now, back in the academic year 23-24, the U.S. Department of Education revamped the entire FAFSA form. And what they did was they didn't just change the FAFSA form itself or the computer system or the networks and everything else you need to fill out and so on and so forth. They also changed what was known before as the expected family contribution. Now, the expected family contribution number was a number given to you at the end of the FAFSA form indicating how much they expect the family to be able to pay towards the cost of college. So when they created the new FAFSA form to fill in starting in 23-24 for the 24-25 academic year, what they did was they got rid of the expected family contribution number, what came at the end of the FAFSA showing you what you can pay for college, and they changed that designation to the Student Aid Index. But essentially, other than a few changes here and there, both of the terms basically mean the same thing. So the Student Aid Index is essentially a number you get at the end of the FAFSA, indicating to both the federal government, the state that you reside in, if you stay in state to go to college there for state aid, as well as the institution the college is considering. It gives all three of these people a number to utilize to see if you're eligible for either federal grant money, state grant money, or institutional grant money at the institution you're looking to go to. So think of the Student Aid Index at the end of the FAFSA after you fill the whole thing out. Fill in the student assets and income, the parents' assets and income after everything gets filled out. At the end, when you get to the confirmation page, at the end it's going to show you your Student Aid Index number. That Student Aid Index number is going to let you know basically if you're going to be eligible for anything at the institutions you're considering going to. Now, from the federal side, the Student Aid Index number is utilized to give away Pell Grants, as well as SEOG grants, as well as federal work study, as well as also federal loans, typically either subsidized or unsubsidized. Now, if you're thinking or wondering, am I eligible for any grant money, filling out the FAFSA form and getting my Student Aid Index, what number am I looking at to see if I'm going to get any free money, grant money essentially, let's call it, from the federal government? And the answer is very simple. If your Student Aid Index number is $8,000 or below, you typically will be eligible for Pell Grants. In some cases, in addition to Pell Grants, also SEOG money, Supplemental Education Opportunity Grants as well. But first the Pell Grants are given away, then the SEOG is given away depending on if you have enough financial need to attend that institution. Now, from the states, there are a lot of states out there, California, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, that do give out state aid if your student stays in state, as well as you have a low enough Student Aid Index number. Let's say you went to high school in New Jersey and you stayed in a New Jersey college, then you would be eligible for state aid. But if you're from New Jersey as a resident and you go off to Pennsylvania or California, Ohio, the state aid cannot follow you. But let's say you stay in state and your Student Aid Index number is 10,000 or below, then typically you're eligible for state aid. So it's another thing to kind of consider if you're looking at it from what the Student Aid Index number means to us. Now, from the institutional side, it depends on a few factors. There's going to be some colleges that are very generous. There's going to be some colleges that are not very generous at all. Now, to figure those things out, obviously you have to do a lot of homework and figure out from the schools, respectively, each one, who will and who will not provide aid. You can figure out most of this information, obviously, by watching the videos here on our channel, because we go through a lot of different ways of figuring out how financially it works, who's generous, who's not, and so on and so forth. But that being said, an easy kind of rule of thumb is you first look to see what the school's cost of attendance is. The cost of attendance is essentially what the entire school costs for one academic year. Tuition, room and board, books, transportation, fees, the whole gambit. You take that number, and then that number is subtracted by your Student Aid Index. Now, if the Student Aid Index number is lower than the cost of attendance, that means you have financial aid space availability to help pay for college. If it's not, that means you don't have any space. It's very unlikely the school's going to give you any grant money, any free money. Now, when it comes to Student Aid Index, just like needing to have space available for grant money, you also need space available as well for work study as well. So work study is essentially a job on campus, in some cases off campus for a nonprofit. Essentially, if it works with the college in alignment with them, you're able to do on campus or off campus work study programs. But the way it essentially works when it comes to work study is the federal government gives the school a bunch of money and says employ your students. Now, after filling out the FAFSA, if your Student Aid Index number shows a low enough number where you have financial aid space available, you're eligible for work study. if once again, just like the grants we talked about a moment ago, if you have no financial need, you're not eligible for any work-study programs. Now, work-study programs typically are low in the amount of money they typically give you in an academic year. Usually for most work-study student programs, you're going to be looking at $1,000 to $4,000 offered to you for the academic year, so it's not a lot of money here. It is somewhat helpful because there's obviously money to help pay for the books, transportation, pizza night, let's call it, so small incidental expenses you'll have at the college compared to the tuition cost situation. Now when it comes to the third part of this, the student aid index number is also factored in when you're looking at federal loans. Now, when you guys fill out the Fafsa form, depending on what year your student's going into, if they're going into freshman year, they're offered $3,500. If they're going to sophomore year, they're offered $6,500, and they're going off to junior year, they're offered $7,500 for junior year and $7,500 for senior year. Now, between these different dynamics of how much they're giving you, $5,500, $6,500, $7,500, $7,500, part of these loans can be either subsidized and unsub, or they can be all unsubsidized. And it comes back to the whole situation back again of what your student aid index number is. Now, based on the school's cost and your student aid index number, if there's financial aid space available, that basically means you will be eligible for subsidized loans. If there's no space available, you will not be eligible for subsidized loans. They're going to offer you the entire loan amount depending on your grade level, all in unsubsidized money. And the interesting thing here, the thing you have to kind of consider is, you always want the subsidized money because the subsidized loan money means the government's paying the interest on this loan while the student's in school with a 6 months grace period after they graduate. So if they go to school for 4 years, then 6 months after that, there is no loan interest this entire time on the subsidized. Where on the unsubsidized, the interest starts immediately. So the entire 4 years of undergrad plus that 6 months grace period don't really exist from an interest perspective because they are tacking it on essentially every month. So if you are able to get the subsidized portion, very beneficial because essentially it's like somebody just offering you money for free to borrow without any interest rate attached to it. So the way to look at the student aid index is very simple. The lower the student aid index number you have, the more beneficial because the more opportunities you have for both federal, state, and institutional aid. The higher the number, the less likelihood you have for federal and state, and also the less likelihood of getting any substantial amount of money from the college itself. That's essentially the way of looking at it, is the student aid index is their way of looking at what we can afford to pay for one student going off to college for one academic year. Now this number obviously changes every year because every year you do the Fafsa form again in anticipation of next academic year. So if your income, your assets essentially go down for you or the student, then in many cases your student aid index number will come down, making you eligible hopefully for more financial aid consideration from the federal, state, and institutional side. And all that being said, if you enjoyed today's video, please leave us a like, please leave us a comment. Obviously it does help the channel. Now on the screen you'll see my contact information. If you do need help in the financial aid admissions process, please feel free to reach out. I do help out families through Zoom meetings, so if you need assistance, please text me. That's the fastest way to reach me. Email is the second fastest way to reach me. You can call, but it typically is a longer way to get me on the phone. Other than that, thank you for watching today's video. Once again, my name is Ed from Principia Prep.